The desert stretched endlessly under the harsh sun, every grain of sand shimmering like molten glass. The team's vehicles had left hours ago, retreating under heavy fire, leaving her behind. For a long moment, she lay flat in the dune's shadow, breathing shallowly, counting heartbeats, and listening to the wind whip around her like a warning. The radio was useless, crackling with static that seemed almost mocking, and every sound beyond the dunes was a threat. The whispers from her team echoed in her mind. They sacrificed her, she's done for. She clenched her jaw, tasting grit in her mouth, refusing to let panic take over. She wasn't done. Not yet. Being a sniper had taught her patience, taught her how to make every second count, how to turn disadvantage into opportunity. Slowly, deliberately, she crawled across the sand, each movement measured, her body barely making an imprint in the shifting dunes. The enemy had assumed she was gone, that no one survived the bombardment that had scattered her unit. That assumption was about to cost them. She found cover behind a jagged ridge and pressed her rifle close, inspecting it quickly. It was still functional, the scope clean enough to catch a reflection in a soldier's eye from half a kilometer away. She checked the small pack strapped to her chest. A few rounds, a combat knife, water she hadn't touched, and a flare. Survival meant strategy, and she had strategy in spades. She crouched low, scanning the terrain, listening to the distant shouts and gunfire, measuring the distance and angle, preparing for the moment she could strike. Nightfall was her ally. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the desert in deep orange and purple, and she moved again, faster now, more confident. Her body ached from dehydration and exertion, but her mind was razor sharp. She could see the enemy encampment ahead. 2 guards, a perimeter light, the others huddled near armored vehicles. Every detail mattered. She traced their patrol pattern, memorizing the gaps, predicting when and where she could create disruption. Then she paused. A glimmer of movement caught her eye. No, it was more than that. It was a shadow that didn't belong, someone else crawling in the sand, someone small, fast, aware. Her pulse quickened. Was it reinforcements? No, it was one of the survivors from her team, barely conscious, dragging themselves along the dunes. She signaled silently, guiding them behind her position. They huddled in the shadows together, sharing water, rationing their breaths. She whispered a promise, almost to herself. They think I'm gone, but I'm coming back. The desert was quiet now except for the wind, and she felt a cold, burning resolve settle in her chest. The night was hers, the mission wasn't over, and no one, not even the team that left her, would see what she was about to unleash. The night cloaked the desert in a veil of shadows, but she moved like a ghost, each step calculated, silent, purposeful. Her eyes adjusted to the dim moonlight, catching every subtle movement in the enemy camp ahead. She could see the nervous shifting of guards, the way they talked in low voices, unaware that she was already tracking every single one of them. Her rifle felt like an extension of herself, her breath synchronized with the heartbeat of the desert. She had no illusions. One wrong move, one careless glance, and it would be over. But she thrived on impossible odds. Slowly, she crawled closer, staying low, using the dunes as cover. Her mind ran through every scenario she had trained for, every angle, every escape route. She noted the spacing of the sentries, the timing of the patrols, and the weak points in the perimeter. A plan was forming, precise and deadly. A sudden noise, metal scraping against sand, made her freeze. Her pulse spiked. She barely dared to blink, and then she saw it. One of the enemy soldiers adjusting his pack, oblivious to the sniper hidden just over the dune's ridge. She lined up her shot, held her breath, and squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked in the quiet night, the sound masked by the wind. The soldier crumpled instantly, unseen by the others. The camp erupted in confusion. Flashlights swung, voices shouted orders, but she was already moving, relocating to a new position. Every shot was deliberate, surgical. She disrupted communications, targeted key guards, and sowed chaos without ever revealing her position. The enemy had assumed she was gone, and now they realized too late that the desert had a hunter. She paused only to check on the teammate she had found earlier. He was wounded, barely able to move, but alive. She handed him a small medkit, whispered instructions, and made him stay low while she continued her assault. She didn't kill recklessly. Her goal was to destabilize, to create an opening for extraction. Every movement was a message. they couldn't predict her, they couldn't contain her. Hours passed, and the enemy's panic grew. They tried to regroup, but every corner they turned, every shadow they approached, held danger. The sniper was relentless. She had become a force of nature, striking with precision, vanishing without a trace. Her mind was calm despite the chaos, her instincts flawless, her mission clear: survive and make them pay for underestimating her. By the time the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the enemy camp was in shambles. Fires burned, radios were destroyed, and the surviving soldiers were scattered in fear. She allowed herself a brief moment to breathe, her body trembling from exhaustion but her spirit unbroken. She had made her presence known and carved a path forward. She looked over the dunes, scanning the horizon. The extraction was still uncertain, but she had gained the upper hand. The desert had tested her, the team that abandoned her had doubted her, and the enemy had been humiliated by her skill. All that remained was the final act, the one that would close this chapter on her terms. The sun was climbing higher, burning away the last traces of night, and the desert seemed to hold its breath. She moved deliberately, every sense alert. The remaining enemy forces had regrouped, desperate, confused, and vulnerable. They didn't know she was still alive, still hunting, still calculating. She perched on a ridge overlooking their new formation, her rifle steady, scope trained on the key targets, officers giving orders, vehicles readying for retreat. Every shot would count. Her teammate crawled beside her, silent, eyes wide with awe and fear. He had survived, barely, thanks to her guidance, but now he watched as she orchestrated the endgame. She whispered instructions, pointing to weak spots in the enemy's line, coordinating small traps with precision that made survival almost inevitable. Her movements were fluid, almost hypnotic in their calm violence. A vehicle started moving, one of the last attempts to escape. She adjusted her scope, calculating wind, distance, trajectory, and heartbeat. One breath, one squeeze. The vehicle's engine stuttered, and then it stopped, sparks flying. Chaos erupted instantly as soldiers scrambled, yelling at shadows they could not see. She moved to a new position, striking again, each shot hitting a critical target. Panic had become her ally. By mid-morning, the enemy forces were in full retreat, scattering across the desert, leaving behind equipment and weapons. She descended from her perch, rifle slung, scanning the horizon. Every threat neutralized, every calculation executed perfectly. The desert, which had once been a trap, was now a canvas painted with her triumph. Her body ached, but her mind was sharper than ever. She had survived what everyone said was impossible. She turned to her teammate, giving him a nod of reassurance. "We make it back together," she said quietly, the desert wind carrying her words. He nodded, too exhausted and shocked to speak. Slowly, she began moving toward the extraction point she had memorized from intel, every step bringing her closer to safety. As the vehicles of friendly forces appeared on the horizon, the reality of her survival sank in. The team that had whispered, "They sacrificed her," had been wrong. She had endured, adapted, and turned the tables completely. Her eyes, still sharp and focused, finally softened as she allowed herself a small, victorious smile. She turned her gaze to the camera crew waiting to capture the aftermath. "This isn't just about survival," she said, voice calm but firm. "It's about refusing to be underestimated. If you're facing impossible odds, you find a way. That's all any of us can do." And then, with a subtle nod and a wry smile, she added, "If you want more stories like this, make sure you subscribe to Her Stories Words. Every tale here proves that courage, strategy, and determination can defy the impossible. Don't miss what's next." The camera panned over the desert once more, catching the final traces of battle, the lone sniper standing tall against impossible odds, alive, victorious, and unbroken. The sun illuminated her silhouette, a testament to survival, skill, and relentless determination.